They drove a food truck onto my lawn and hung balloons from my mailbox, and somebody signed my name to a piece of paper that never existed. That was when I realized Silver Pine Lake wasn't just quiet water and loons. It had people with plans for my life. My name's Henry Caldwell. Hank, if you're the kind of person who lets me call you that. I moved here after 35 years of courtroom mornings and late nights, thinking silence would fix some things. It didn't fix June, but it was somewhere to try. It began like most disasters do, small and reasonable. I was sanding a bookshelf, the urn for June on the mantel, when I came back from the hardware store to find folding chairs and a tent on my lawn. A woman with a clipboard smiled like we'd run into each other at church. "Welcome to the neighborhood," she said. Her phone showed an event with my name on it. I shut the gate. I told them no. That should have been enough. If you spend any time around contracts, you look for the trail timestamps, IP addresses, that little history that tells the truth. Lena, my niece and a paralegal, sat with me at my kitchen table and pulled up the file. "This didn't exist last month," she said. "The signature was pasted after, so the saved timestamp doesn't match. The email IP is local." It felt like someone had taken a copy of my life and started to edit. What surprised me was how quickly neighborliness turned into accusation. The HOA, led by Marjorie Hale, the kind of woman who keeps things orderly, sent a notice. $2,000 a day for unauthorized use. Flyers slipped under doors called me unneighborly, stingy, someone who hid behind grief. People at the post office stopped in the middle of their sentences when I waved. Rumor moves faster than you think. I defended myself the only way I knew how, with records. I had permits, inspection receipts, camera footage. One night the porch camera picked up 2 board members near the generator. One said, "Flip the switch, that'll teach him." They laughed. Lena cupped her hand over her mouth. "That's a recording," she said. "You should call the police." I didn't want a police circus in a place where everyone shops at the same hardware store, but truth needs witnesses. So I organized. I made a binder, exhibits, timelines, printouts, and I stopped being invisible. The HOA had planned a welcome on my lawn, assuming an audience would shame me into silence. I walked into the community hall with that binder and sat where everyone could see me. Marjorie began with brochures, syrup, and policy, and then I opened my case. I played the porch audio. I showed the metadata, the email trail, the forged PDF that appeared after the event. The room changed. Those easy smiles and casual judgments got tight. "You're being dramatic, Henry," Marjorie told me later, but she couldn't make the audio go away. People listened when something tangible landed on the table. Neighbors I barely spoke to started saying I once fixed a fence at dawn for no pay, that I carried wood for a neighbor when the storm came. Little things like that multiplied. Eddie, who builds decks and tells jokes, stood up and said, "I know this man." It's funny how a community remembers the hands that helped when you give them a reason to think deeper. They tried to posture. Fines kept arriving. A whisper campaign called me difficult. I filed a small claims case. In court, there's less theater and more facts. I handed the judge the binder, the audio, the timestamps, the IP logs. The judge read, then looked up. The ruling was crisp. The HOA had to retract the fines, pay damages, and change policy so no private event could be scheduled using mere word of mouth. Marjorie resigned a week later, packing her papers with the same polite smile she'd worn to meetings. The board elected new leadership and the bylaws were updated. Notarized permission required for private events on someone's property. It wasn't dramatic revenge, it was accountability. The neighborhood learned that gossip has consequences and that paperwork, dull as it is sometimes the best kind of armor. After that, the house felt different, lighter, but honest in a new way. I finished June's bookshelf, sanded the last edge until it felt like a hand, and put her urn on the top shelf where the morning light catches it. Lena moved back to the city with a stack of documents she swore she'd never sort again, but she calls on Sunday mornings to check in. In those first weeks, grief and indignation braided together. Some mornings I couldn't tell which was heavier. The bookshelf was my therapy. Measure, cut, sand, and the rhythm quieted the worst of it. Lena helped more like a partner than a niece. She pulled server logs, saved files to 3 drives, and taught me to look for the little mismatches that scream, "That's not original." When Marjorie tried to sell the story of my stubbornness at a community meeting, she had the politest voice in town. "We merely followed procedure," she said, as if procedures were a fact of nature. I pulled my laptop onto the table and played the porch audio. 2 minutes of low voices, one saying, "Flip the switch," another laughing. The room shifted. People who'd nodded politely now leaned forward. A trustee who'd been handing out flyers looked like a man who'd swallowed a coin. She cornered me afterward, eyes bright with civic righteousness. "You're trying to make this personal," she said. I looked back at the faces in the hall, at Eddie's hands still stained with paint, and replied, "This is personal. It's my home." Her retort was all smooth policy, but the audio had a throat to it, and policy folded under the weight of proof. Small claims took the same tone: small, precise, efficient. The judge read the exhibits, asked one pointed question, and gave a ruling that required the HOA to retract the fines, pay damages, and tighten the bylaws so private events required notarized owner consent. Marjorie left quietly, writing personal reasons on her note, which felt like someone closing a book without apologizing for tearing pages out. There were no fireworks afterward, just the slow, civilized work of putting things back in order. Eddie brought his dog by sometimes. Lena called on Sundays. I finished the bookshelf on a quiet afternoon, set June's urn on the top shelf where sunlight would find it, and felt less like a man under siege than someone who'd learned to make a small stand and keep living. If there's one thing I'd tell anyone watching this, it's that a home is a thing of patience and paper. Guard both. Keep your receipts, your permits, your camera logs, and keep a neighbor who sees you for more than the rumors. When a community sets out to define you, the only real defense is a clear voice and evidence calm. If you're watching and have ever felt small in your own yard, know this: paper can protect you, and neighbors can surprise you with kindness. Tell me, was justice done, or did we just tidy a mess for spring to grow back? Drop a comment with your story, hit share if this mattered, and let's talk about what it means when a community chooses rules over rumor.